In the previous lecture, we learned how to make a template for the single member page. It's incomplete, but we'll get it fixed in this lecture. Here comes the real challenge. We will have to read the code to figure out where to apply these changes. Let me show you what I mean. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the Theme Compatibility and Template Files page. This page pretty much goes over what we learned in the last section, so we'll skip over some of it. What I want you to focus on is this section called Overloading Template Compatibility Theme Files. If you take a look, BuddyPress documents that there are files that load template parts in this directory bp-templates/bp-legacy/BuddyPress. However, we won't be using this template. The reason being is that it's an old template. Let me show you what I mean. Inside the Plugins folder, open the BuddyPress plugin and navigate to the BP Templates directory. Upon coming to this directory, you'll find two folders called BP Legacy and BP Nouveau. The BP Nouveau template is what BuddyPress will use by default. It's a template that comes with the latest standards of HTML and CSS. The BP Legacy template is for sites that are still using the old template but would like to use the latest features of BuddyPress. The HTML and CSS is not up to par with today's standards. Unfortunately, the new template is not very well documented on the site. A lot of the code still refers to the old template. This means that you'll have to study the code yourself to figure out things yourself. I'll try my best to guide you in this course. For this course, we'll be using Nouveau since it contains code for the latest standards. This directory is where BuddyPress stores its own template and HTML files for loading certain sections of BuddyPress. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's explore how BuddyPress loads a page again. When a user visits a page generated by BuddyPress, the first thing BuddyPress will do is search for that page-specific template file. Let's say the page was this member page. It will then use the template hierarchy system to search for that template. If it doesn't exist, it'll just use the base template, which would be the buddypress.php file. After it finds the main template, BuddyPress will then proceed to load the various sections and pieces that make up that page. If we take a look at the single member page, all this content is just various files loaded onto one page. This cover image is its own template. The menu is its own template, and then this form is also its own template. It's not all stuffed into one file. BuddyPress will first search in the current activated theme for these files and parts. For example, if it wanted to load the cover image, it'll search the theme folder for that part. Currently, the only template we have is the index template for the single member page. Therefore, BuddyPress will not find that template part in our theme. Next, BuddyPress will search for the template inside its own folder. As you can already guess, BuddyPress will search for those files inside the BP templates/BP Nouveau/BuddyPress directory. To make things simpler and faster, we could copy the BuddyPress directory into the theme's root directory like so. However, you don't want to do this. A lot of developers fall into this trap of just grabbing each template and putting it inside their theme. But that comes with the price of being too difficult to debug and handle. My suggestion is to only include the files you plan on overwriting. Otherwise, you're just overdoing it and making it harder on yourself to have to manage so many templates. So I'm going to undo this action. We should be left with the original templates we had, which is just the index template. Now that you know how BuddyPress loads its template, we can begin customizing it. Here's where the problem arises. How do we know which file is loaded for which page? BuddyPress doesn't give you much information on that inside their documentation. They only tell you the bare minimum and then leave the rest to you to figure out. This is a criticism I have of BuddyPress. WordPress is greatly documented and well written. It even goes over some complex topics. However, the BuddyPress plugin only covers the basics. There aren't a lot of examples of usages that you can use, so you're left to figure it out on your own. You have to open up the files and read the code to figure out what goes where. Luckily, not everything is as hard as it seems. If you take a look, you'll notice that BuddyPress organizes everything pretty well. For example, all files in the activity folder relates to the activity page. With that logic in mind, we can assume that the template parts related to the single member page is located inside the members/single directory. That narrows it down quite a bit. Let's study the HTML generated by WordPress. I want you to inspect the element and try to find the div tag with the ID BuddyPress. Every single BuddyPress page will generate this tag. You can always expect BuddyPress to insert its content in between these tags. It's also a great way to apply CSS stylings to BuddyPress content only. Alright, let's take a deeper look. This page is made up of two main tags, which are the item header and BP wrap elements. Inside the item header element, you'll find a div tag with the ID of cover image container. What I'm doing right now is studying the HTML so that I can have a better idea of what to look for when I'm searching through the templates. The BP wrap element contains the rest of the content which we want centered. Therefore, it would make sense to apply our classes that can center content to this tag. I've already studied a lot of this HTML, so I have a good idea of what to look for. Feel free to pause the video and study the HTML some more. After studying the HTML, I will then look through the template files until I find something that matches the HTML outputted by BuddyPress. I've already looked through these files. I was able to find that the home.php file inside the members/single directory encompasses all this content. Open this file now. As you can see, this is the file we're looking for. It has the div tags with the classes item header and BP wrap. The next step is to copy this file into the respective directory in our theme. Inside our copy of the file, I'm going to apply the class container to the div tag with the class of BP wrap. This is a bootstrap class that was part of my template already before I started this theme. It'll take care of centering the content. Let's refresh the page and you should now see the navigation and body being centered. The only thing we need to center is the avatar and the header information. Here's the problem though. If you take a look at the item header tag, you'll find that this tag also has the cover image inside. If we were to center this tag, we'll also be centering the cover image, which isn't what we want. So the next thing to do is to look for the template that contains all this HTML and center what we want to center. Unlike last time, we don't have to study the HTML and look through files to find the file that contains the HTML for this. Going back to the BuddyPress home file we copied over, inside the div tag with the class of item header, there's this function being called. It's called BP Nouveau member header template part. I'm going to copy this function and then switch over to the search feature of Visual Studio Code. I'm going to paste in the function along with the function keyword before it. I'll leave the rest of the fields empty. What we're going to do is search for where this function was defined. In order for us to understand what a function does, we'll have to examine the code itself. This may take a while for some of you, so just be patient. We should receive one result. Here we have the function being defined by BuddyPress. Right above it is a comment telling us what this function does. It says the following: use the appropriate member header and enjoy a template hierarchy. That doesn't tell us a whole lot. Basically, what it does is choose an appropriate header template. In BuddyPress, you have the option of disabling cover images. You can find that option on the settings page. This function will check if that option is enabled or disabled. By default, the template variable will be set to member header. The value member header refers to the cover image feature being disabled. Right after this is a conditional statement. The function BP displayed user use cover image header is being called. This function will take care of querying the database to check for the cover image setting. If this returns true, then the cover image feature is enabled. As a result, the template variable will be changed to cover image header. Once the variable is set, BuddyPress will begin loading the template. After the conditional statement, 4 things are happening. 2 do action functions are being called. This is for other developers to add in content before or after the header. We won't be using either of these. We can safely ignore them. In between these 2 functions is the function BP Nouveau member get template part. This function will grab a template part based on the value passed in. You may be thinking, doesn't WordPress already have a get template part function? Yes, it does. This function is a BuddyPress function that wraps the WordPress function getTemplatePart. The difference between these two functions is that the BuddyPress function will only look for the template inside the BuddyPress plugin folder. By looking at this code, we can determine that the files containing the header code can be found in two files. Those are the cover image header and member header files. If we were to look inside the BP Nouveau template, you'll eventually come across the two files that could be loaded which match the variable values. Now that we know the files, let's just copy and paste them into their respective directories from the plugin to our theme. So why two files? Well, BuddyPress allows the admin to enable and disable the cover image feature. As a result, there are two templates for both scenarios. We will account for both. Let's start with the cover image header file. This is the template that's used when the cover image feature is enabled. When I was studying this file, I was looking for the tag that contains the image itself. I was able to find that this div tag with the ID of header cover image contains the cover image itself. I want to apply centering to all the content except for this tag. The tag that contains the avatar and information is this div tag with the ID item header cover image. I was able to come to this conclusion by studying the HTML. I'm going to apply the container class to this tag. That should do it. Let's refresh the page. You should now see the avatar being centered while the cover image is still stretched. This is exactly what we wanted. Of course, not everyone who installs our theme and BuddyPress will want this cover image feature, so we'll have to account for that too. Go to the admin dashboard and navigate to Settings, BuddyPress, Options. I want you to uncheck the cover image uploads feature and save the changes. Let's refresh the page once more. You should see the content uncentered along with no cover image. Let's fix this. Inside the member header template, I'm going to create a div tag with the class container. Then I'm going to move the two tags with the IDs item header avatar and item header content inside of this container tag. That should center our avatar and the content. Refresh the page and you should now see it centered. I'm going to re-enable the cover image feature because I like how it looks. That wraps it up for this lecture. All we did was study the HTML and find the appropriate templates for each section. It's kind of a pain, but it's the only way to go about BuddyPress theme development. In the next lecture, we're going to continue working on this page and optimize it a little.